Kia ora, g'day, welcome back once again here with part 2 of my reaction to these Bondi terrorist cowards. So let's jump back in.
Isaac El-Matari was plotting to import firearms for an insurgency involving attacks in Sydney, a plan Marcus claims was shared with Naveed.
Naveed was an eyewitness to Isaac, his plan of bringing weapons from Lebanon. Isaac had contact with ISIS extremist group in Lebanon, and those people in this group promised him we can smuggle weapon into Australian borders.
For what?
For a terror attack. For a terror attack targeting some embassies, such as the USA, the Israeli, the Pakistani, and the Saudi.
Man, I just wonder, so if this information is known, as this guy has mentioned, he was an agent and this intel is coming back, maybe I've pushed pause too soon. Why isn't the relevant federal or government authorities doing anything about it to intercept before that happens? Maybe they are. Maybe there's a whole bunch of stuff that's happening behind the scenes, probably is, that we don't know about. But sitting here and listening to this guy speak about it the way that he is just mind-boggling, is the word that comes to mind.
Embassies, churches, public buildings, and police stations.
How did you...
So, sorry to cut him off again, but no doubt this stuff is still happening now, right? So these plans are still being made. These communications, I imagine, are still taking place around smuggling in weapons, whatever else they're looking to smuggle into the country to carry out these attacks against the various embassies that he spoke about, against church buildings, against police stations, etc.
Eurasia officers respond when you reported this about Naveed?
They became very interested because it's a very serious matter, and they asked me to put an eye on him.
There's no way we can know what was said between Marcus and his handlers.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so hearing him say they became very interested, he said, basically, unless you get the handlers come out and they also then too want to speak about what was said or what was done, even then it's potentially all smoke and mirrors, right?
But the mosque has confirmed Naveed Akram and Isaac El-Matari were with a group who were thrown out from Itikaf. In a statement, the mosque said the group's behaviour was hostile and confrontational. Othman bin Affan Mosque stands firmly against extremism and hate. We don't tolerate it. Within weeks of the mosque retreat, the Street Dawa group posted video online of Naveed converting other teenagers.
We will pray for ibadah, we pray to obey Allah, and the first step is salat. The 5 pillars of Islam, law of Allah is that we obey Him and whatever He says we do. If you
Alright, this is mad. Got this guy out here converting young teenagers, whatever he says we do in terms of Allah.
I was in school, yeah? So we just asked the teacher, can I borrow this room? And just go pray for 5 minutes and go back out.
Authorities had been monitoring El-Matari and were becoming increasingly alarmed, as revealed later in court. They secretly recorded him before the mosque retreat as he plotted to spend half a decade building a network of fighters in the bush and the city, with brothers as sleepers and attacks on places of political significance that were open to the public with no security protecting them.
Who's provided this information? I don't know if it's the same guy that we've seen on here so far. Is he the one that's gathered all this intel and then providing it to, or are these things that ASIO was intercepted, seeing, hearing, and, I don't know, choosing to just continue to monitor the situation? Who knows?
He wanted to emulate an ISIS uprising like the boys in Marawi in the southern Philippines in 2017.
It's reasonable to suspect that Naveed would have been exposed to those same sorts of thinking, and that those were possibilities for him to take that violent extremist ideology onto in the future. These were relationships that he had and would have been very influential on his thinking at the time.
In July 2019, police arrested members of the terror cell, including Isaac El-Matari. He was later jailed for 7 years for planning terrorist attacks and trying to join ISIS abroad. In October that year, ASIO launched an investigation into Naveed Akram because of his associations with El-Matari. The agency was assessing whether Naveed was a terrorism threat.
We can presume that there were a number of people, not to say a voluminous number, but several people spoken to who had knowledge of the person of interest to try to ascertain if a single report about a commitment to violent ideology was accurate, possibly exaggerated, possibly, in some cases, wrong, without questioning the integrity of the person.
Neil Fergus has been a respected advisor to Western intelligence agencies and currently has a complaint against ASIO over a separate matter. He has close knowledge of how investigators would assess a report like Marcus's.
They would be weighing up that information. An analyst with genuine credentials in counter-terrorism and the study of jihadist ideologies would make a recommendation.
ASIO officers interviewed Naveed Akram and his father Sajid. A security official told Four Corners Sajid promised that Naveed, then 18, would cut ties with extremists. This was the first time Sajid Akram entered the picture. Sajid Akram was a mysterious figure, even to some who knew him. He'd migrated from India in 1998, got married, and drifted between jobs in fruit shops. A senior counter-terrorism official told us investigators...
Interesting. Was it a fruit shop owner at the Bondi massacre, terror attack, that disarmed Sajid, the dad? I'm not sure. I thought that's what I heard somewhere, that it was a local store owner, possibly a fruit shop owner is something that comes to mind, who saw what happened and then risked his own life. That footage of that guy is incredible too. To do what he did, his timing, his just everything, his desire and willingness to try to go and stop this clown Sajid, which he did from using his weapon in that moment. Would have been good if he kneecapped him, though. I think I mentioned that in another video, not a reaction video, though, so that he couldn't get back to the bridge. But eventually, I think it was a police officer that took out Sajid with the pistol shot, 40 metres or something. That's an accurate shot, headshot, I think it might have been. Don't quote me on that, I'm not sure. But it was good to see that. This is just my take, my honest opinion. Again, not hate speech. It's just good to see one of those threats be taken out, and in that case, I believe it was the father, Sajid. But fruit shop, so he bounced between fruit shop, work. How, I don't know if ironic is the right term, but maybe how fitting a fruit shop owner is the guy that disarmed him.
Now believe he may have already been radicalised when he met with ASIO about his son, but convinced them he wasn't. Marcus has his own story about Sajid Akram, which Four Corners has been unable to independently verify.
Sajid and his son Naveed came to our retreat dawah in Pakistan. It was the first time I met Sajid.
He says Sajid revealed he was also an extremist.
He showed his support of ISIS. He expressed his support of Isaac and his plans. He justified his plans as it's required from us as Muslims to support the Islamic State, to fight on behalf of them. And if we couldn't do that, we have to do hijrah, immigrant, to join them.
How common is it to hear someone say such things in Sydney's extremist community?
It's unusual. Someone speaks openly and freely like this, showing...
Somebody speaks openly and freely like that anyway. I think alarm bells and red flags should be going off, and I would suggest if you are an agent in that environment, seeing somebody come out and starting to talk that way, like that gets fed up the food chain, up the pipeline to the relevant intelligence agencies, etc., law enforcement, to have a serious look at it and start doing more, is what I would think anyway.
Supporting of terror attacks, it's unusual. So that's why I raised concern about him, and I reported that to ASIO.
At that point, who was more radical, Sajid or Naveed Akram?
After this conversation, I thought Sajid was more extremist than his son.
And that, well, without knowing them, that to me makes sense. You know, the father has a lot of sway, a lot of influence, a lot of pull, a lot of power, for want of a better term, in the home dynamic. And if it's just the father and son, you know, it's going to be a lot easier, I would say, for the dad to influence and convince the son down a pathway that Naveed might otherwise may not have gone down, if there wasn't such a constant reminder and strong influence within the home. Like, that's with anything, right? Gangs is another one. If you've got a parent or parents that are in the gangs, it stands to reason that your children are going to end up in that pipeline, going down that path, because that's what they see, that's what they live, that's what they breathe, that's what they hear. It's just the feeling, everything. So, yeah, man. Doesn't make it any better, though. We still have the ability to choose, but again, it's hard if that's what you're brought up with and if that's what's been pumped into you day in, day out.
If it was reported, as is asserted by Marcus, then it should have been referred to the Joint Counter-Terrorism Team in Sydney, which is a 3-agency collective which is designed to ensure that we have appropriate transfer of intelligence between state police, federal police and ASIO. And that means identifying people who pose potentially a risk to public safety.
Yeah, I mean, he just articulated, that makes sense to me. If it's been reported by Marcus, the agent that we see here on the camera, it's interesting that his face and everything is broadcasted, but they wouldn't say, I think in the first reaction I did, where he was or where they were travelling to for his protection. So his whole face is online, man. But anyway, I get it, I understand, but that's surely he's got a massive target on his back now, and going out in public, I would assume is a bit of a mission for him to go through in terms of where he is and what he's doing and who might be looking for him, etc. Yeah, anyway.
In a statement, ASIO said it was constrained in its ability to respond to questions about the Akrams because of an ongoing investigation, court case and royal commission. Sajid Akram's path to radicalisation is critical to those inquiries.
Sometimes being able to identify radicalisation is quite different depending on age. Sometimes, as is the case with older people, they're able to think a lot clearer and manage risks a lot better. And so they sometimes do fly under the radar.
It feels like we're all one for once as an ummah.
During ASIO's investigation into Naveed Akram, they discovered he was a follower of the radical cleric Wissam Haddad. The teenager attended Haddad's prayer centre, which drew a small following at that time.
Naveed was
Just amazing, eh? It just goes to show how one person can have such an influence and an impact on another. And Wissam Haddad, or Wissam Ballbag, I'll call him, with regards to his influence, starting out with a small group, I assume it's gotten bigger, or whatever the case might be. But just that ability to have an impact on just one person, then another person, and more and more and more, to the point where they start to follow. You know, when I listen to this and think about things without knowing all the details, Hitler comes to mind, and the Nazi movement and all that sort of stuff that took place. It's just, yeah, we think it can't happen, or we think it's crazy for that to happen, but we've got plenty of, and it's still happening today, plenty of reference points of where it is possible, where it has happened, and where it likely is still happening today. It's mad.
joining them during their activities in Al Madina Dawah Center, like dinners, speaking to youth, encouraging them to go to Al Madina Dawah Center and to attend classes and lessons there.
He was connecting with Haddad's youth leaders, including 22-year-old Yusuf Uwainat, an Islamic State recruiter. While ASIO was investigating Naveed, police arrested Uwainat and discovered his secret chats with other teenagers.
Cool. I was just going to say, if you know that this guy is a recruiter for ISIS, why are you not grabbing him? So thankfully, at least they've grabbed this guy by the sounds of things.
He was indoctrinating them into ISIS and urging them to carry out suicide attacks.
The cell that Naveed was associating with, really its primary target for recruitment and indoctrination were children. The purpose of an organisation like Al Madina is to recruit a whole range of people in, but also to filter through that cohort and identify people who will be willing to or able to engage in violence.
In 2020, ASIO concluded its 6-month investigation into Naveed Akram. In a statement, the organisation said it investigated the 18-year-old using its most sensitive capabilities and found he did not intend to engage in violent extremism.
How can that be the case? You got your Marcus giving you the information, I assume a whole bunch of other comms, that recruiter, I don't know if he had any, he's in a photo with Naveed. I assume there would have been some sort of communication, maybe it was all verbal. It's just, man, that seems really weird that they found nothing. 6 months of investigating into Naveed, and I assume his dad, Sajid, and you find nothing on both of them. Even with the reporting that Marcus saying that the dad, Sajid, seems more extreme than his son, and the way he's talking openly in those areas around his support of terrorism and that sort of stuff and attacks. Something's wrong there. Maybe there's a sleeper in there in the department that was doing the investigation.
Marcus and ASIO agree on that finding. By your assessment, did Naveed Akram or Sajid Akram pose a threat at that time, 2020?
At that time, I didn't see any real violence threat.
Okay, I think, again, probably just paused it too soon. But it sounds like ASIO and this guy, Marcus, agreed on that report. But they didn't see him as a threat at that time, which is what it sounds like where this guy's going. But surely you don't take, maybe you do because of limited resources and time and all that sort of stuff. But far out, I was going to say surely you don't take those, the surveillance and stuff away. But yeah, maybe you do.
Or any potential attacks plans? No.
ASIO told Four Corners it assessed Naveed Akram did not support Islamic State at that time.
Wow. I don't know, easy to sit back on my little chair here in my safe space, not being involved in the investigation or the discussions, the communications, the rationale as to why things have been done or not done. But if I've observed anything or learnt anything, is that it seems like these groups and these individuals within them, they're fairly patient, right? They'll take their time. And although they may not look like they're going to pose a threat back in 2020, it seems like it's just a matter of time. And I think we hear that in other countries today. I've had some people, a person from the UK comments and saying they feel like it's just a matter of time before something like this happens over there. I think it's just a matter of time before something like this happens anywhere, to be honest, and more of these happen. And it's a very challenging space for the agencies and the government to try to anticipate or predict when these bloody muppets and cowards are going to carry out these terrorist attacks, when they supposedly love death more than life, or more than we love life. Why don't you just go and end your lives and then go and enjoy that death that you just want to go rushing to? Clearly you don't do that because you're not really keen or looking to go and die. You do love life, and you're just being bloody toe rags to try to hurt as many people as you can before you go.
Prime Minister has said ASIO found there was no clear evidence Naveed or Sajid Akram were radicalised. Marcus disputes those assessments. There must have been strong conflicting intelligence to yours for ASIO to decide at that time that neither Naveed or Sajid Akram were radicalised.
I'm not sure what was behind this decision, but I'm sure that they showed real signs of their radicalization and of their supporting of ISIS.
So what does that, so what does that mean? I mean, Marcus, I think I heard himself say that he supported the ASIO report, the 6 months worth of investigating. But he doesn't agree with, like, what? Like, is he saying that they should have still been under surveillance? That's what I would have thought. But again, not being in that space, not knowing probably the likely strain on resources, financially, people, power, etc., etc. I suppose if they've deemed somebody not a threat at that stage or at that time, and maybe they're looking at imminent threat, like, are they going to be doing something within the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, maybe not necessarily looking 4 or 5 years ahead, or if they are, maybe a very light touch. Who knows, man? But anyway, I'm going to park this one up here. I'll come back to it later on. Appreciate your time and support if you stuck around this long. Thank you very much for the suggestions that are still rolling through. And take care, wherever you are, regardless of wherever you are and whatever it is that you're going through. The message is always the same. Any challenges, difficulties you're facing right now, just easier said than done, I know, but keep turning up, keep staying in the fight, put one foot in front of the other, and just take one day at a time. And trust that things can do and will get better, and that there is a light at the end of that tunnel. The sun will shine again, and that those better days are closer than you and I think. So just stick at it. As always, go always a little further. Remember, who dares wins and who cares wins. And until the next video, there is a big mana wave coming from me to you, filled with my aroha, respect, appreciation, and gratitude for you all.